Tonight, Peter Costello claims John Howard did promise to step aside as Liberal leader.
He told me that he intended to do 1.5 terms as Prime Minister and then would hand over.
The women suing after breast cancer screening failed to pick up their disease.
It's totally destroyed my life.
Wild celebrations as one kick puts Italy on top of the world.
And he wins the World Cup for Italy.
National 9 News with Bruce Page and Heather Ford.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Relations between the two top Liberals in Canberra are near breaking point tonight. Peter Costello has publicly contradicted the Prime Minister's denial that the pair had a deal on the leadership. The Treasurer says John Howard promised to hand over the reins within 6 years.
Peter Costello wore a grin as he strode out to meet the waiting media in Melbourne today, but what he had to say was no laughing matter. He endorsed the claim by former Minister Ian McLaughlin that John Howard had undertaken to hand over the Prime Ministership within 6 years of winning office.
His account is entirely accurate.
In effect, the Treasurer was calling the Prime Minister a liar. Shortly before, in Sydney, Mr Howard had denied any such promise.
There was no deal made. There were lots of discussions at that time, including one in which Mr McLaughlin was present. That did not involve the conclusion of a deal.
The Treasurer said Mr McLaughlin and Mr Howard had come to his Parliament House office on December the 5th, 1994. At that time, it was clear Alexander Downer would have to be replaced as leader.
Mr Howard asked me not to nominate for the Liberal Party leadership because he did not want a vote in the party room. He told me that he intended to do 1.5 terms as Prime Minister and then would hand over.
Mr McLaughlin kept notes of the meeting.
The public's entitled to know the full truth, and that's what happened.
But Mr Howard fired a shot across the bows of his would-be successor.
The leadership of the Liberal Party is not determined by John Howard or Peter Costello or indeed any other individual. The leadership of the Liberal Party is in the hands of the men and women who comprise the Federal Parliamentary Liberal Party.
Although leadership tension at the top of the government has now reached a new and dangerous level, Mr Costello says he'll remain as Treasurer while there are things to be done to improve Australia.
He should have the balls to challenge, and of course he won't do that because he doesn't have the votes.
Laurie Oakes, National 9 News.
A man has been viciously bashed outside a Gold Coast hotel after a win on the pokies. He has shocking head injuries and is sure his attacker was the man sitting beside him when he struck it lucky.
It's the ugly face of a cowardly crime. Brisbane retiree David Soden's Gold Coast holiday ending with a fractured eye socket and cheekbone.
Well, I don't remember a great deal because I was kicked, as you can see, around the head and forced to the ground. It was just so quick and so, so brutal.
The 62-year-old attacked as he left this Palm Beach hotel about 9:30 last night with a man in his 20s who'd been sitting beside him when he'd won on the pokies.
Well, I think it was, what the hell's going on here? I knew I had money in my pocket and I knew he knew that I had money. And I just couldn't work out, what was going on.
In Brisbane, police have charged this 18-year-old over 2 attacks on elderly women in the space of a few hours. He's accused of jumping into the car of 72-year-old Jean when she stopped at traffic lights at Nunda. She says he made sexually explicit comments before stealing her purse.
Despite her predicament, Jean kept her cool, all the time talking to the teenager, convincing him to get out at the nearest railway station.
Luckily, when I got up towards Northgate Station, he did get out. I said, here's your station. You can get a train from here.
The teenager's also been charged with sexually assaulting a 77-year-old in church grounds at Sandgate. Neil Dawley, National 9 News.
The parents of a 4-year-old boy who was killed by an out-of-control car are appalled that the driver has been given his licence back. 3 months ago, he was unlicensed and allegedly intoxicated when his car ploughed into a front yard south of Brisbane. But now he's legally behind the wheel again.
This is Jeffrey Douglas Kinniston outside the Beenleigh courts today. But on April the 9th, it's alleged he was driving this black Commodore. Out of control, it ploughed through a front yard in Norwell. 4-year-old Lucas Smith was killed.
We've got to try and live with this for the rest of our lives.
Right.
You know, it was our baby boy.
At the time of the crash, Kynaston's licence was suspended because of unpaid fines. It's also alleged he was intoxicated.
Was there anything you wanted to say to Lucas Smith's parents, Mr Kynaston?
Kynaston is charged with dangerous driving causing death. Since the crash, though, he's paid his fines, has his licence back, and though he didn't drive today, he's back on the road.
We complained to the police that he's still driving. He just goes and pays his fine, so his spur penalty is lifted and he's legally allowed to drive. You know, that's what makes your jaw hit the floor, eh?
The couple says the legal system's presumption of innocence is hiding a gross injustice. Kynaston keeps his licence while they lose a son.
Also a 7-year-old son, his only brother. He's lost.
Jeffrey Kynaston will be back in the Beenleigh courts next month. He'll be joined by Lucas Smith's parents and all their supporters.
In the meantime, we carry on.
Try and carry on. Not like it.
Phil Wilmington, National 9 News.
2 Gold Coast women are taking Queensland Health to court for failing to detect the early signs of their breast cancer. Both were told they had the disease only months after routine mammograms gave them the all clear.
At best, Philippa Naismith has 2 years to live. At worst, she has 7 months.
It's totally destroyed my life. It's there every morning when you wake up. It's in your face at night before you go to sleep.
In June last year, 11 months after a mammogram at the Gold Coast breast screening clinic, she found a lump in her breast.
I was told I had an incurable cancer.
48-year-old Sandra Harley was a regular at the same clinic. 15 months after a so-called clear screening in 2003, her left breast had to be removed.
I have 3 children, a husband, busy person, and put my faith in the medical system.
Both are now taking legal action against Breast Screening Queensland, claiming negligence. The films from the initial mammograms of both women have since been independently assessed, and both apparently show signs of abnormalities.
Both of these ladies would have been in a much better position if it had been diagnosed when we say that it should have been.
Queensland Health says its clinics and clinicians are regularly assessed, but all patients are warned no system is fail-safe.
Cannot find all cancers, but we go to extraordinary extents to ensure that we detect as many cancers as we possibly can.
While mammograms are still the best way to detect breast cancers, Philippa and Sandra have some extra advice.
If you have the slightest doubt at all, go and get another opinion.
Sally Eales, National 9 News.
Premier Beattie is embroiled in another health row over a new job given to a bureaucrat who was severely criticised by the Doctor Death inquiry. Accused of being careless and incompetent, he now has a $90,000 post in which he won't have anything to do with patients.
This is Mike Allsop, the former Fraser Coast Health Service manager, re-employed last week in a planning role at head office in Brisbane. The opposition health spokesman is seething.
This extraordinarily arrogant, out-of-touch act by the government.
Mr Allsop was found by Health Inquiry Commissioner Jeff Davies to have been careless and incompetent and had compromised patient safety with harmful consequences.
Mr Allsop should not have been reappointed in any capacity to Queensland Health.
The Director-General says Mr Allsop was appointed to his new $90,000 position on merit, and for his failings at the Hervey Bay Hospital, he's in effect dropped $31,000 in salary and can't seek promotion for 2 years.
And there's actually a very significant penalty that's been applied.
That is a very lame excuse, given the extent of findings.
I mean, we're going to start, hanging people by hooks like they did in the Spanish Inquisition. Sooner or later, you've got to turn the page. People have to be punished. He's been punished.
While Mr Beattie said the Health Department is on the improve, the turnaround is being hampered by the opposition's attacks.
If Queensland Health doesn't recover in the way that we want it to, then they believe they'll win more votes.
Spencer Jolly, National 9 News.
Italians everywhere are celebrating tonight, delirious after their footballers won the World Cup. The Blues beat France in a final that had it all. Brilliance, a moment of madness, heartache and jubilation.
Fabio Grosso's one shot at World Cup glory, and it was a shot heard around the world.
And he wins the World Cup for Italy. It is a triumph.
Outsiders before a ball was kicked in anger, maybe. Now, though, kings of the world. In Rome, And in Berlin itself, they hailed football's new royalty. No triumph under the Arc de Triomphe, a black night in the City of Lights. Under and on Brisbane's own Eiffel Tower, it was an Italian invasion. In Melbourne, Lygon Street exploded. And Sydney's Italian heartland quite simply overflowed. Italia! Italia! On football's biggest stage, the stars had come out to play. Few bigger than Zinedine Zidane, but in this, his final match, an inglorious end to a glorious career.
And Zinedine Zidane leaves.
And after 120 minutes, locked at 1-1, a cruel penalty shootout to find a winner.
No goal. It's a fourth World Cup for Italy. Only Brazil have more.
And as the Italians' World Cup ran over, a sobering reminder. They got there by beating the Socceroos, but only after a dubious penalty. Lane Kelcutt, National 9 News.
Still to come tonight, a family mourns a little girl taken by a croc.
And a dramatic rescue after a boy dropped his keys.
On a current affair, huge savings on petrol. How you can beat the price rises.
You can save $800.
1-1 at the end of extra time before Italy got home 5-3 in a penalty shootout.
After a month-long festival of 64 matches, the first all-European final in 24 years. Malouda felled by Materazzi, Zidane converting the penalty in the 7th minute, Materazzi making amends in the 19th.
And the header to level.
The Azzurri had a goal disallowed on the hour. Luca Toni ruled offside before the final went into extra time. Zidane's header for Le Bleu off target before his professional career ended with a red card in the 110th minute.
Zinedine Zidane leaves.
Spot kicks would then determine the cup holder, David Trezeguet missing his shot for the French.
No goal.
Fabio Grosso burying the winning kick for Italy.
And he wins the World Cup for Italy.
Steve Haddon, National 9 News.
Roger Federer has earned a place in tennis history, winning his 4th straight Wimbledon title to rank alongside greats such as Pete Sampras and Bjorn Borg. The Swiss star was surgical in his demolition of Spain's Rafael Nadal in 4 sets and is fast becoming a tennis legend.
A Sunday stroll for an afternoon on the lawn. It's a route Roger Federer knows well. Rafael Nadal walked with him, and while Federer looked relaxed, the Spaniard was armed with his racket and ready. The first set sailing by, with Nadal's game tally 0. Bruised but still punching, Nadal landed blows and hauled himself back into the match.
Trying to pump himself up, Nadal.
They faced off at close range during one change of ends, but just when it looked like the second could slip, Federer managed to hang on. Nadal persisted as he was pushed into a tiebreak, where the top seed made it 2 sets to love. The task was now more monumental than ever, and Nadal knew it. He chased down everything. But there wasn't much he could do about this.
Great shot.
It went to another tiebreak, and Nadal nailed it. His relentless attack finally paying off as he managed to peg one back.
Standing ovation.
Stung into action, Federer's response was emphatic.
Scorching forehand.
He stepped it up to the point where Nadal couldn't go with him. His ice-cool veneer cracked for a second. Shortly after, it dissolved entirely.
That's out. Roger Federer is our Wimbledon champion.
I'll definitely be back next year and try to go for the 5th, obviously.
At only 24 years of age, so many honours still beckon. At Wimbledon, Ken Sutcliffe, National 9 News.
The Wallabies are hoping Reds prop Rodney Blake will be available for Saturday night's test against the Springboks at Suncorp Stadium. Blake injured his ankle against England last month, but after the defeat by the All Blacks, coach John Connolly is hoping to beef up the Wallaby pack.
More than 1,000 fans were at Marist Brothers College Ashgrove to watch old boy John Connolly conduct his first session as Wallaby coach on home soil. Not all the drills appeared to be aimed at striking fear into Saturday's South African opposition, but after a reality check courtesy of the All Blacks on the weekend, the squad remains upbeat and positive. Blake is expected to return if his ankle stands up to this week's training schedule against the Springboks, The 130-kilogram front rower is keen for the Wallabies to use brains as well as brawn.
Aim up and, step up to their size and outsmart them in different ways on the field.
Red's teammate Sean Hardman has been called into the squad for injured hooker Tymer Kaisak and knows that size will be an issue at Suncorp.
The South Africans traditionally like to run with a big pack, and there's some big lads amongst them, and they certainly let you know they're out there.
Hardman's last Test appearance was against the French 4 years ago, and should he see game time, it will be his first Wallaby outing at home. Meanwhile, the Reds are still hoping Ballymore might be the home of State of Origin fullback Clinton Schifkovski next year. Andrew Slack, National 9 News.
And Australia's Robbie McEwen has retained the green jersey as the leading sprinter in the Tour de France. Frenchman Sylvain Calzati broke clear with 30 kilometres remaining to win the 8th stage. McEwen led the main bunch home, finishing 4th overall. Ukraine's Sergei Honchar held on to the yellow jersey. But there's still a long way to go.
There is. Thank you all. ComSec Finance Report now. And Coles Myer shares soared to a record close on the stock market after completion of a share buyback worth over $800 million. The All Ords up 6 to start the week, with Centro Property Group higher after expanding into the US shopping centre market. A dollar gained almost 0.5 cent on the greenback. John's next with the weather.
Then Pirates plunder the box office.
From Garnier, it's proven. Enriched with multi-B vitamins, Garnier Fructis strengthens your hair deep down and makes it up to 5 times stronger. Get your hair looking healthy and back in shape. Garnier Fructis Fortifying Shampoo.
Our dog Rexy, he's one of the family. Goes where we go, does what we do. So when we found out RACQ offers pet insurance for about $1 a week extra on our home insurance, we jumped at the chance.
To cover your dog or cat for both sickness and injury, call RACQ Insurance. We'll help you wherever we can.
Rexy! Rexy! He's always doing this.
RACQ Insurance. Wouldn't be without them, would you?
And he lined it up, and it's a goal! Just brilliant! What a clever play!
And another clever play is to flexi-rent your technology from Harvey Norman Computers. Flexi-rent is the best way to pay for technology. Low monthly payments that could be tax deductible. No deposit and the flexibility to trade up to the latest technology before the end of your agreement. Ask about flexi-renting this HP notebook computer with 15.4-inch widescreen and add on a TV tuner so you'll never miss a match. Flexi-rent and Harvey Norman Computers. What a team!
People have forgotten what honor is, but not here. On the street, your feet have to do all the talking. Play beautiful.
This telecast brought to you by the new Powerade Isotonic. Get there. Nike Football and LG. Life's good.